Assistant Commissioner Nutt, you'll remember the conversation we had at the last round of estimates about the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine and their flag at their Melbourne rally. The AFP sent a letter of correction to your evidence subsequent to the hearing. The issue we discussed was, given that they are not listed as a terrorist organisation, did that have any bearing on them being charged for the public display of a listed terrorism symbol? And you indicated that was a factor in not proceeding with the investigation or charges, but subsequently I was told in correspondence that's not relevant consideration. So can you just clarify, firstly, the status of the law? Is it necessary to be listed as a terrorist organisation to charge someone with an offence for displaying a terrorism symbol?
Yeah, thanks, Senator. To clarify, it wasn't a correction, it was a clarification, is my understanding. And what it was really looking at the two parts of the definition of terrorist organisation, which is under section 102.1 off the top of my head, and I'll be corrected on that because I can't get my paper. What it was mean is in terms of when we're talking about a prohibited symbol under the section 80.2 sections, it is either a prescribed terrorist organisation or it's through a terrorist organisation by definition, referring to the terrorist organisation definition section that I referenced previously. And what that means is you have to, in addition to the proofs of the public display of the symbol, whether that's intentional and all the other legislative thresholds and exemptions, Senator, you also have, and I characterise it as prove the conduct. And what I mean by that is you have to prove the elements of the definition of a terrorist organisation if they're not prescribed, and that is, and I'll say broadly, not technically, Senator, that the organisation is engaged in the planning, preparation or the undertaking or advocating of a terrorist act. So all those things have to be proven to advance the matter that you wanted to put before the court. In that case, it was around the display of a symbol.
Yes, so I'm going back to our exchange. It's not easy for me to quote because it's an extensive exchange and I don't want to quote one section and not another and be unfair to you, but I took from your evidence that one of the reasons why these people were not investigated is because it wasn't listed as a terrorist organisation, and I understood from your evidence that had it been listed as a terrorist organisation, the investigation would have been more straightforward and might have proceeded, but didn't in this instance. So what is the main reason why this display publicly of a PFLP symbol in Melbourne was not investigated in this instance?
Yeah, we did not investigate this matter. What our exchange was about was my understanding around what was required to prefer the prohibited symbol charge, and that in addition to the prohibited symbol charges, as I mentioned before, you have the burden of also proving a terrorist organisation by definition of those sections, referring to the conduct of that organisation, as I said just a moment ago, with reference to their conduct in terms of planning, preparation, advocating for...
Do you think that would be difficult in the case of the Popular Front for Liberation of Palestine? Is that why it wasn't investigated?
Well, with reference of the public display, there's obviously the other legislative thresholds that apply in terms of the display advancing racial hatred or superiority. Also advocating others to engage in such activities and cause offence. So these are obviously there's quite a number of considerations that have to be made.
Yes, but as we've discussed previously at some length in this forum, only one of those limbs needs to be met, not all of them, in order to proceed.
Are those legislative thresholds? That's correct, yes.
Right, so
in addition to the intentional public display, knowing it is a terrorist organisation, so the knowledge of the person that they meet the definition of a terrorist organisation under section 102.1. So yes, all those elements in addition to the legislative thresholds for the public display.
Yeah, so if you didn't investigate, how do you know what the knowledge was, stated knowledge was of the people displaying the symbol?
We did not investigate. I'd have to see why we didn't investigate. I'll take that on notice, Senator.
Well, that was the source of my original questions, and I'm several months, well, a month on now. I'm still none the wiser as to what the reason is. I assure you it caused offence and distress. I assure you the PFLP believes in racial superiority and is a terrorist organisation and has conducted terrorist attacks against civilians and killed people. There's no doubt in my mind about those facts. So it's really difficult to understand why the AFP wouldn't investigate.
Just to clarify that, Senator, in terms of the cause racial superiority offence, these are in combination of what the intention of the person or persons causing making the public display.
Yeah, and
it's not just it's not about the intention of the terrorist organisation under consideration.
Sure, I appreciate that, but you didn't investigate, so these people weren't interviewed, they weren't asked questions. Presumably, no research was done on their social media accounts and whether they posted anti-Semitic or pro-terrorist content. So how do you know that those elements wouldn't have been met?
As I said, I'll take that on notice, Senator.
I think we'll take that one on notice, and what I can just give some context, just the volume of referrals and reports of crime that we do receive. So since we stood up Special Operation Adelaide in December, we've received and reviewed over 800 reports of crime. So that's across multiple regions in the AFP, so teams in different cities and states. So we'll take that one on notice and come back with some further clarity.
I'm aware of that, and this operation has done good work, and I welcome the impact it's had. As I've said in this forum before, I think it has sent quite a strong message. It is far less common now to see people displaying these symbols in our cities and streets, and that's a big improvement. But if some instances of public display of terrorist symbols are allowed, then I think people may take a different interpretation, may become emboldened again, may do this again, and that's not something any of us should want to see. So just in conclusion, before I share the cause, Senator Sharma, can I encourage you to really carefully examine this instance and see whether or not an investigation could occur and whether or not an offence did occur?
We'll take that one on notice and come back.